Hello and welcome to Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. Today I have a very exciting video for you. The three sisters here, I called these my three sister Hobbit Jades. This is sister one, are going to finally be in a forest. I bought these last fall. You can see I have a video I'll link in the description. I bought them thinking, well, I'm going to put them in a forest. It was one of those, kind of end of summer, kind of mid to late summer deals where they're really just giving the stuff away to get rid of it. And I just couldn't resist. I didn't have any Hobbit Jade, so I bought these three. And, did just some basic pruning and just got them into pots. And then they spent the winter like that. And then I kind of thought, you know what, I'm going to make a forest out of these, which was what my original idea was. And so that is what we are going to do today. But the largest plant here needs a bit of pruning before we make it part of the forest. And it's actually a better plan than that. I'm actually going to use some of the cuttings that we take here in a second as part of the forest. You can see this is basically, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, maybe 6 coming out of this whorl, almost like an octopus, which is kind of interesting. But, I think I mentioned in the first video that I plan on taking these two out because I don't think it'll affect it at all, and we'll just cut this one out. And it actually gives me 2 new trees so that I can have a total of 5 in my forest, which is kind of like how to do it. Look at that. Perfect, cute little cutting ready to go into a forest. And I will also take this one out because it sort of goes straight up, and the other 2 are much more interesting looking, so we will keep those. And voila, that's another tree. And you can see it didn't really impact the look at this at all. That did break this leaf off. It pretty much doesn't look all that much different than it did before, and it'll quickly thicken up anyway. So just smooth these off. I always try to get the cuts nice and smooth, and of course let them dry out before you get it wet. I have definitely had cases where a wound that never dries out developed into rot usually when there's during the raining season in early spring. So you definitely want to keep that dry until it sort of skins over. But yeah, cute little tree, and I think this will actually function as the main tree in our forest. But we'll see when we actually get them put together here. So here we go. Look at that. All of a sudden, from 1 tree to 3 trees. Fantastic. And we will now move on to getting these guys out of their pots. So we'll start with the larger tree first. I usually just use a spoon to kind of pry it out. You see we have some rocks in here. Kind of get those out first, and then just kind of gently lift the tree out of the pot. Let's see. I think we have, there's a baby here, so I want to get the baby out of there first. And there it is. You can see. Oops! Oh my goodness! I dropped the baby. Don't ever let me babysit your children, I guess. But there we go, back safe and sound. I'll get the tweezers, and you can see that. And how can I not have that be part of the forest? So we'll definitely put the baby in a safe place here, and we will make sure to use that as part of our forest. Absolutely. And so like I said, let me see, I don't have any wires in this one. So I just kind of, gently go in, and I don't want to gouge the roots. And I'm not sure how much roots these will have, and just kind of pry it out. And it's looking pretty healthy. Got a good root ball. Seems to be enjoying that soil, and I'll actually save the soil, and we will use that in the forest. And let's bring in another tree. This is another one in a tiny little round pot. Yeah, that one actually has pretty good roots. So I will try to pry it out. I don't, oh no, it does have a wire in it. So let me just see if it's attached. Yeah, I can just pull. Boy, that's a thick wire. I don't know what I was thinking there. Definitely didn't want this going anywhere, but so I got the wire out, so this tree should pop right out of the pot. I usually don't wire these, but I'm kind of inconsistent, so I have to check. But yeah, this one came right out. And it's also got a nice little root ball. And I'm not going to do anything with the roots. We'll just try to move them right in to the forest, almost like they are. And this is our last little tree. And I love this little pot. It's a little Japanese pot. And well, this one is really stuck. Oh, you know what? I bet it's, yeah, I think it's got a wire in it. Yeah. And it must be attached to the top because I can't pull it out. Let's see. Yeah, boy, it's a fine wire. Try to get that out of there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut it now. Don't do this with your scissors because it'll dull them, but you know, I'm gonna do it. All right, so I got that out of there, and now I should be able to get the get this thing out. I usually just pull the wire down, you know, and hopefully I didn't mess the roots up too much on this, but it's got a lot less roots, but you know, jades don't need much, so I'm not too concerned about it, and we will move that to the side as well and get these rocks out of the way and have a look at these beautiful trees. Look at that. They'd make a nice group planting in that orientation even right there. So the next thing I want to do is look at some pots. I have a few pots I've been thinking about for this. And, you know, I kind of like to just put the trees in the pot and see what we think. You know, just there's no sense trying to visualize it. So this is one pot that I was thinking about. I just love this pot. It's a rectangle handmade pot. Can't remember the potter. I have a Pot's video that probably let you know who that is, but I'll try to put it in the show notes here. I like it. I mean, it might be, I mean, I got to keep in mind I need to put 2 more trees in here. I like to always look at 3 pots and make a choice of the best of 3, because you figure, well, I could have at least made 2 worse choices. So it's a good way to make a decision. Just kind of do your best. And I'm just kind of playing around with the orientation to get a feel for how this might look. And you know, it looks pretty good. Like the you know, the trunks I think are a nice thickness in regard to the depth of the pot. And I like the green, you know, I think it works really well with the foliage and the bark. I'm a little concerned about, you know, I have to get 2 more trees in here, and it might be a little tight for that. So, boy, that's a pretty pot though. I love how chunky it is. It's got these neat feet. But let's look at another pot. This is another option. Here, I'll bring in, this is a Bunsen pot. And I just love his pots. And this one is, you know, it's kind of white crackle with a spark of color. It's a nice 4th of July pot. And I feel like, you know, I could probably use this one for a tight group planting of 3. Yeah, I think it's too small for this. I mean, especially I have no hopes of getting the other 2 trees in here, actually, although I love the pot. And I'll figure out something cool to put in there, but I don't think that's the right one for this. But look at that. I mean, it's just beautiful. And I just love his pots. You can see he's got a fancy signature there as well. So on to pot number 3, and we'll see what we think. I just love the color of this pot, and this is the biggest of the 3, and so I feel like it might be, yeah, I think this might be, especially since I have to put 2 more in here, and I am loving the color of this. You know, it's kind of an earth tone, but it's also got some interest on it. It's glazed, and You know, it's kind of a good depth, and I think it just gives me some room to space things out. You know, one of the biggest sort of mistakes people make when doing a forest is not having enough space between the trees, right? And it just gets very, very crowded. And so this gives me a little breathing room. I could probably even go bigger as this grows, but I really like the look of this, and I think yeah, I think this will be the pot we go with here, for sure. And you know, look at the bark and the pot color, and you know, it's got some green hints. It just works really, really well with everything, you know. And you know, you can kind of like do this and kind of directly compare them. I do kind of like this. I really I love this pot, and I like how this bark looks. And so who knows, you know, maybe I'll grow these in this larger pot for a few years, and something will happen, and then I can, you know, maybe move the most impressive trees to that other pot. But I think really this one, just as soon as I saw it, I'm like, yeah, that's the way to do it. And you know, that's why I think you want to have a few pots and just try them out and go with what feels right to you. So I've chosen the pot. Now let me put some screens in there so we can put the soil in. Like I said, I think I'll be quite happy with this. I think it's a nice looking pot, and so here we go. I've just jumped ahead a bit. I put the screens in, and I'm sort of looking at the front. Is that the front? It's got some black spots on either side, but honestly I feel like either would be fine. You know, you can see I put the screens in there, and you can see this is an eastern leaf pot. I don't know if they have this color anymore, but I really like it. If you want to check out their website, you can get one. Which side do I want to use here? Yeah, we'll go with this. So we got the front picked out, and now is the toughest part. You can see I put some wires in here too. Let me show you, just to show you how I put those in, because I feel like I'm worried about the two, not the trees with roots will be fine, but the two cuttings, they have no roots, and I'm just going to stick them directly in here. So you can see I sort of just put some wire in there. I've shown how I do that in other videos, so I can just kind of wrap it around the trunk of the tree and put it in. So I'm going to throw some soil in here, and we will start to look at the placement of the trees. So I'll put a little more soil in. You can see my soil it's a little moist here. I had some soil out, and we had sort of an unexpected rain, and it got a little wet. But you know, it doesn't get soggy. I think it'll be fine. I'm not worried about it at all. But you know, I don't normally use wet soil for repotting, but I'll just scoop some of it in here. It's a mix of like lava and cactus soil, which I kind of like to use. These trees really seem to like that mix. So I'm just gonna, you know, draw a line in the sand, and I'll put the main tree here, which is kind of where I generally like to put it. And you know, we'll just kind of plop them down. Put this one over here, and maybe this one over on the left. And you know, you kind of just get them in there, maybe put a bit of soil around them to see how it feels. Then you start moving them to the left and the right. Maybe you change the angles, and you know, you'll slowly kind of hone in on what you like. You know, I mean, there's definitely, you can Google, there's formulas for doing this, but I find you just have to, it's sort of trial and error until you kind of get something that just looks good to you. And you can see these ones with roots are doing okay. They're standing up enough to get a feel for where I might want them. I think I'll kind of shift this guy a little bit. And there's, you know, just typically a lot of fine tuning here. I see like this tree and the tree to the left are a little close together, so I'm going to try to move this one on the left to create a little more space there. And you know, these are jades, like they're fairly easy if you get it growing and solid for a few months and you want to slide one a little bit, you know, you can kind of loosen it up and move it, and I found that to be you know, pretty easy to do. So this is looking a little better, at least for the two on the left. I'm kind of liking that. I sort of like all my trees to be at the same angle. I know a lot of people may put the outside trees a bit angling outwards, which I've done before too, but I tend to not like that in a forest. I do that in group plantings, but I sort of want them all to have a similar trunk angle, and I'm trying to figure out where to put this cutting. And I can kind of wiggle my wire over there and wrap it in. And you know, the nice thing about this wire is even when you have it on, you can sort of move it around a bit. And I just find it super handy to work on this difficult task of placement of the trees. Yeah, and you know, it's a bit like whack-a-mole, you know, they stand up, they fall down, you know, and eventually when I get close enough, we'll start scooping some soil in, and I will use some rocks to hold these in until the roots get established. And I want to mention, like, the cuttings, like these cuttings are fresh. I didn't dry them out. But you know, I'm really gonna allow this soil to get really, really dry for the next, I don't know, 5 days or something. And so, you know, I think it'll be fine. I'll just leave them in here and watch it closely. But normally you would want to allow them to dry out for 3-4 days, you know, so that the end is sealed before you kind of put them in soil. But I think you can kind of see it's starting to take shape here. We have a couple of triangles, and I think I'll be struggling to get these two outer trees out, far out, without getting the rocks and additional soil in there. But we'll take care of that when we get there. Just trying to figure out where to put this tiny guy in the back. I'll just wrap it with the wire, and then I can sort of move it around a bit. But I think that's a good placement for it. Yeah, you know, it kind of looks like it's off in the distance. I don't have a lot of stuff that's kind of clashing with each other when I get these set up in here. And you know, one of the issues I have here is, like, all my trees are basically the same size. So you know, I am gonna let this thing just grow like crazy and grow out. And so when I do the next pruning, you know, I will allow the larger tree to be larger, and I'll cut back the other ones harder, or maybe even prune some limbs to kind of get them more in scale. But you know, for now, I just want to get them in here. I think it'll look good. And you know, when I do the first major pruning, I will work much more on the sizes. So I'm going to start dumping some soil in here to try to lock these in. And I just, especially the ones with roots, you know, I sort of put some soil in, work it into the roots. As I said, we'll get some rocks here as well to hold them in. And you know, you just sort of work on each tree one at a time, get it in there. You know, I tend to not really cement them in until I'm reasonably sure I've got the angles and the positions right, and then, you know, really just kind of dump on the soil and rocks, you know, more towards the end when you're sure you've got it down. So at this point, I'm fairly confident of the placement of the main tree anyway. So I think I'm going to dump some more soil in there and kind of work it in a bit. And I kind of try to lift up the tree a little bit here. You know, it's a good opportunity to get it exactly how you want it. But I'm going to put in a little more soil to sort of stabilize some of these trees while I'm working on this. It just makes it easier if they're not flip-flopping around all over the place. And I think this is pretty close to where we want them anyway, and it's fairly easy, you know, to kind of shift and twist them a little bit as you go forward. But you know, I'll just gently work the soil in and around the tree to really kind of start holding it much more securely in place. And I think the placement of those two on the left's pretty good, and I will just continue on with the others as I get more soil here. So I think I'll move over to the right here a little bit, put a little soil in around this cutting. I mean, it doesn't need much because it's held in place by wire, but I at least don't want it to necessarily look like that, and the wire will be coming out. You know, I don't know. I kind of tend to leave it on a fair amount of time, you know, maybe 6 weeks, something like that, until I actually start getting slightly concerned that it might be, you know, cutting in. You know, but it takes a little while. I think this tree in the right, just trying to figure out exactly where we want that one. I think I'll try to get it closer to the edge here. And, you know, you can see it's got some high roots on there. But I think I'll just bury it deep for now. I'm not worried about Nabari, anything like that. I mean, I'm quite sure you can do some decent stuff with jades, but they just don't really have a whole lot of roots. So I'm not even worried about that at this point. But we'll just sort of work this in and get this this tree stabilized. It's kind of a nice tree. I really like the bark in this one, and I tend to sort of push the soil in on this guy because there's a lot of air gaps on its kind of tall roots. I think that looks pretty good. So yeah, we'll swing around to the back here and have a look at this tiny cutting in the back. And you know, I find that I really like these jades, like these individual small jades, sorry, much more as a forest than as individual trees. Like, it's just somehow like they say the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, or no, the sum of the whole. I don't know. Anyway, I think they just look better as a group, you know, like, you know, somehow it's just very synergistic, and they kind of look pretty good. I'm just kind of tapping down some soil here and getting everything in there. As I said, I am going to put some rocks down. I just feel more comfortable with that. I have, you know, some squirrels that don't cause a lot of damage, but they definitely like try to, you know, plant acorns or whatever they're doing and whatnot. So I kind of want, the rocks tend to I don't know, it kind of discourages them from doing that for whatever reason. And I just kind of like the security of having them in there, for sure. So I'm just putting in some last bits of soil where I think we need it here. I got some low spots, and you know, you don't want to have a sinkhole anywhere. And just kind of smooth it in. I like using the spoon. I think it's just a perfect implement for doing that. And I think, let me see if I've got my rocks here. We will start doing that. I tend to put, I'm not, you know, these are sort of temporary rocks just to kind of hold these in. And I try to have it touching in 3 spots, you know, it's quite stable that way. And, you know, like I said, I'll probably keep these in for a month and a half or something, and then take them out. Usually I just kind of let it go until the next pruning, and then I take them out. But yeah, I kind of like to have some rocks around each trunk, just to make sure it doesn't wiggle around and move or get bumped, or even with, you know, hard watering, you can kind of push these over. So it just kind of helps keep it where you want it. And I will also put a little more you know, soil around these rocks, because I find it just kind of looks better, and also kind of fills in small gaps and really just keeps it super stable. Keeps the tree stable and the rock stable, and kind of ties it all together. So this one in the back is a bit wobbly, so I'm going to put some rocks in there, rocks and wire, for that one, and really just kind of hold it I think, in place there, and I think that is kind of it for the rocks. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So I think I'll put a little bit more soil in here. You probably can't see it, but it's a little low there, and just kind of sprinkle it around a little bit over here, just to kind of make the rock a little more connected in there and smooth it out. Yeah, I think it just kind of looks better now. So now this exciting bit coming up here, I think what I'm going to do is place the baby. So let me find the baby. Good heavens. Oops. Drop the baby again. There we go. And I'm just going to put it right there. And you know, I think it's kind of tough, you know, because it doesn't really have any roots yet, but it'll develop them rather quickly. I think I want to put a little more soil in there, so give the baby a nice bed to grow in. And I think this will be a really nice spot for it over here too, because I sort of have this, I honestly sort of tried to save a little spot way over there in the left for the baby. I was thinking that's where I was going to put it. But I'll watch it very closely. Despite my performance so far in protecting the baby, I don't want a wind to blow it out of the pot. So I will be keeping tabs on it. And let's see. You know, come back and you can watch it grow up. So I just had an idea. I'll be right back. I just remembered that I have a Gollum Jade cutting, and here it is, that I think we can put in here. I think it'll work quite nicely. Right there. This is actually the nose of the tree directly behind it. I don't know, for any of you that have watched my other videos, I have a video where I pruned these 3 trees, the 3 primary trees in here. And this is the nose from that guy. I just kind of popped it in some soil, and so we'll stick it in here. I think it's quite fitting, and it fills a nice spot over there. And I think it, you know, kind of rounds out the entire composition, and I think it'll just work out fabulously right there. So to finish up this forest, I want to, you know, just kind of scoop some soil in around these rocks, you know, because it kind of fills in gaps. And as I mentioned, I'm going to have them, these rocks in here for a couple of months or so. So I really want, you know, I want them to look a little more natural, you know, not like they were just kind of chucked onto the ground there. So I find if you just take a little bit of soil and sprinkle it on the rocks, and then just kind of work it into those cracks a little bit, it not only keeps everything in place better, but, you know, just looks better. So, you know, just kind of scoop some of my overly moist soil in here and work it in. And, you know, then we will soon enough be ready for our victory lap. I really can't stress enough how much this kind of really does, I don't know, make it look a lot better. I mean, I guess judge for yourself. You'll see when I'm done here. You think that kind of packing in a little bit of soil around these rocks, you know, it kind of looks like it's been growing there for a while. And especially when you're watering, you know, like when I'm spraying these with water, you know, it just sort of keeps everything in place and prevents things from rolling around. And you just kind of pack it in and, you know, kind of tap the rocks and push the soil in. You know, it doesn't take much. You don't have to spend too much time on it, and just kind of firmly set them in place. And, you know, it's also a good opportunity for any, you know, last minute fine tunings of the angle of the trees that you may want to adjust, and really kind of sets it in place. Yeah, so I think, you know, there's a little gap in the back here, but I think that's looking pretty good. So I got that in, and as promised, here's our victory lap. And I am always impressed when I finish a forest, just how much better it looks than the individual trees. And they just curl my toes. I really, really like working on these jade forests, and I love how they come out, and I just super appreciate them. And a parting thought for the day as on our way out here is, I really like this 3-pot strategy, right? Where you find 3 pots and, try the tree in there, and then just pick one. And I find it makes a difficult decision far easier. And I want to thank you all for spending time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon.